How to deal with the corporate world. This topic came from Srinivas Ratnakar, my very free-spirited friend. And Srinivas, I must say, I know where this topic is coming from. I remember years back, almost 15 years back, I was working with Citibank, and our office was this glass box that was standing on the Bandra Kurla highway, on a dusty highway, and we were inside this 6 or 7 stories of a glass box, and I had a cubicle, open plan office on the 5th floor, and that was my whole day. And what would I worked for a year. I survived a year, but what I remember was crying. I used to escape to the bathroom to cry, and then I found that the second floor, which was the canteen area, was an excellent place to go when it was not food time, and I would go there to cry. And then I discovered the gym in the basement, another great place to go in non-gymming time and sit and cry. And eventually, I even figured out that the doctor's office, because we had a nice, sympathetic doctor, and the doctor's office was a great place to go. And there was a room inside where I could sit and cry. And why do I mention crying, crying, crying? Because I just felt out of water. I felt like, oh my God, this is a crazy place. And I couldn't be me. I wasn't at peace. We were two women on the 5th floor, filled with testosterone charged men, very well dressed, but storming around using foul language and asserting their assertiveness and intelligence and grandeur all over the place. And I couldn't breathe. I couldn't be me. So I had to keep running away and crying. And I'm not saying all of corporate world is like that. That was my experience. But the reason I bring this up is, so how do you deal with something like that? I want to suggest a slightly different approach. What if we didn't have to deal with the corporate world or any world? There will be places and spaces and groups of people and environments that, to us, based on where we are coming from and what our nature is, it might feel like a group of aliens stuffed together doing their jig. And what if we didn't have to force ourselves or insist that we had to fit in to that jig that they're doing? So what if I turn that question around? Instead of how to deal with the corporate world, what if I just ask how to deal with myself? Because at the end of the day, all I have to do is deal with myself. And what if there were a million ways in which I could deal with myself without resorting to having to lock myself up in bathrooms and gymnasiums and other places and cry, and then come out and pretend to be someone I was not. I was walking to my office today morning, and I noticed a Gulmohar tree full of red flowers, and the thought that came to my mind is, these flowers don't demand a salary to bloom. So what if I look at myself as a flower, and I'm here to bloom? How would that change the way I deal with myself? Let me bring a little more clarity here before you get all confused about flowers and what's that got to do with the corporate world. Okay, so so a flower doesn't demand salary to bloom, but then a flower also will not bloom on demand. You cannot tell it bloom now in this season, or you cannot say no, don't bloom in red, bloom in blue, bloom in magenta, or don't bloom at this time, bloom at this other time, right? So perhaps part of the reason a flower doesn't need to demand a salary to bloom is because she blooms according to her nature, when she wants to and how she wants to, and she's being herself. That's easy. that's joyful, that's nice, that's being alive. So what if we chose to work in places, in ways, and on topics and subjects where we felt easy, we felt that was our nature, we felt joyful, we felt, we would do this even without a salary. That's what I mean when I say deal with yourself. When we're doing that, then there isn't a compulsion to fit in to somebody else's way of working, dressing, language, negotiating, ethics, whatever it is, because you're doing your thing. And you might still need, in fact, you will need to engage with others, and they could be people in the corporate world, they could be institutions, they could be groups of people, uh, they could be customers, they could be suppliers, they could be colleagues, but you're engaging with someone because you want to further the work that you want to do. And the work that you want to do, you do by being yourself, because you've chosen something that goes with who you are, how you feel comfortable, what brings you alive, what makes you feel natural, what doesn't make you feel like locking yourself up and wanting to cry. When you deal with others coming from this place, it's more of a, it's not, take it or leave it sounds a little harsh, but it's really like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and this is how your institution or your group or you as a customer or you as a supplier could contribute to the work that I'm doing, and that's why I'm here. Let's explore, let's see if we can find a win-win space to play in, where I don't have to be something I'm not, and I'm not asking you to be something you're not, but we can contribute to one another's causes. And if that's the way that we need to deal with other people and institutes and groups, and these institutes may now be the corporate world, it's not difficult. we, what we're doing with so in a nutshell, once again, what we're doing with is dealing with our own selves and what we want to do, and then looking outward, looking at the rest of the world, at groups, at institutions, at organizations, either in the corporate world or in the government or in the NGO sector, wherever it be, to see if there is a space where there is something that we can contribute and receive contributions. And we do that from without losing touch with who we are and being the flower that we are, which means blooming in our own way and our own time. So we don't have to really deal with an external entity that feels like a bunch of aliens and try and become that alien. I hope that helps. And if there's another topic or question that you'd like to suggest for me to take these video series forwards, please, you're most welcome to. And I love doing this. Thank you for listening.